Have you ever wondered what will happen after you die? The lab is under lockdown. And it's been locked down like this. For the last 3 hours I'm here alone. It's just me, the last potion smashed on the floor. And the body of Dr. Blazier. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. How could he be a corpse if you stay on your feet? Pointing at me with eyes wide open. It's because his pulse is gone. He's just trying to imitate a mannequin. But definitely dead. Believe me, they've killed me many times. And then bring me back again and again and again. I've become numb to the process of death. The signs, but it's never looked anything like this. Never before has the alarm been ticking. Outside the steel door, I can see the red light flashing through a small window. With 10-shaped glasses, I saw guys in lab coats run by. The same victims that are considered white rats. Scattered around, screams fill the eardrum, along with the growling and pleading. I don't know what the hell's going on out there. But it's very violent, very bloody. People are dying. I'd rather be here. But if the smell coming up through the vent is a sign, I have no choice in this matter. It smells pungent like fire. And a light smoke filled the room. It gave me an ultimatum with 2 choices. Stay here and wait, or run outside and venture into madness. I tried to open the door, it's locked. Next I glanced at the window. But the bars are done. Let me know this is not worth the effort. A small room doesn't give me much choice. A steel chair, a metal cabinet. The body of Dr. Light. And the vents are smaller in size. That's about 6 times as much as an adult. Maybe if I was 4 I could get in, maybe. The light flashes from white to red and then turns off. The small room was suddenly pitch black. And I realized that the commotion outside, the screams, the growls, the chaotic sound of the fight has stopped. Replaced by something else. Something very slowly, methodically. It sounds like footsteps but much heavier. It's like a bulldozer growing some legs. And decided to walk down to the experimental research department. There's another sound next to it that's soft and raw. It's the sound of something being dragged on a dirty plastic floor. One voice. Come here to see. It's muttering like a broken record. Ask and you will see. The voice is distorted. It's like a piece of fruit crushed in a blender. Every word it says, it's all transmitted by a tone of voice. Uniform and monotonous. I took a step back instinctively. Realized the footsteps in the darkness are approaching. Closer towards my little cell. At the end of the march. My back versus A into the closet. Groping in the dark, opened the door and put people inside. It's cramped but I managed. The door closed for an hour. The thunder echoed through the room. It's not that it's banging on the door. Echoing the 3-inch thickness steel barrier. Screeching. As it breaks apart under the power of punches. You have cut me to pieces. And now you will suffer my pain. The door gave off the last howl of dead steel. It fell to the floor with a deafening sound. Enough to wake up half of the next quarter. He walked into the room and I'm holding my breath. Close your eyes and think about praying first. Remember that people like me, people with accomplishments like me, don't get that luxury. You called us, didn't you? Call to make us come here. Now you are hiding from everything you see. Now you hate this tragedy. I didn't open the closet door. It doesn't even slide 1 millimeter. To pique and satisfy curiosity. Because the truth is I don't have to. I can hear you very clearly. I heard Dr. Blazier's stomach was flayed. I heard his guts pounding against the floor. And a desperate gulp. When that thing turns inside you into its own. The most important thing right now is to keep quiet. Away from bloody death and terror. But I'm still human. And that means I also need to breathe right now. Smoke is filling the room. It's coming out of the vent that fits in my lungs. Burning rake texture. I was coughing smoke. And before I could stop I coughed again. Oh my god. Like I said, I'm just a human being. There was the sound of VA chattering. And water splashing. That's what I imagined. About the echoes of the doctor's body. As it falls into a pool of its own blood. Then heavy footsteps signal that I was going to die. They stagger slowly. It stirs up in me an intention. And in that moment, 6 million years of human evolution determined. It's time to toss the coin, confront or run away. I opened the closet door. My eyes crashed into a room where there was no light. That contains deep darkness. It doesn't matter anymore. Because my memory is acting like a GPS. Leading bare feet across the cold wooden floor. Through warm blood. And overcome the monster that I can't see. My shoulders slammed against the edge of the door. And that told me I left the room. Out of reach. I keep moving, keep running down the hallway. Pitch black that I've been going through every day. For the last 16 years. The same hallway that painted my dreams. The constant nightmares. I stumbled and stumbled on. The corpses scattered like ghosts. I wonder what happened here. Whether the experiments went too far. If anyone deserves this. Behind me the monster continues its pursuit. Still dragging something behind. But I don't waste time looking back. Because I know not all death is the same. Some are pretty bad, but this could be the worst of all. It took 6 beats for my heart to reach the end of the hallway. And when we arrived, I was greeted with a bitter surprise. The attacker did the job for me. The exit door was smashed into small pieces. And so did the guards at the door. Their bodies were everywhere. A little here, a little there. I tried to ignore the shattered skulls. That cut into my bare feet. I didn't think I'd slip on that Ari's gut. As I stumble through this door, I try not to think then there's no need to try. Because I was free 16 years. Like a bird in a cage, like a fish in a pot. And now I'm free. Walking forever into the grass in the yard. Panting and wheezing like a man. I've spent my whole life tied to a chair or being led away like a dog. My chest is fluttering, my legs are trembling. I looked back at the research lab. And it lit up like a crematorium. Ignited by a chemical cocktail. Strong enough to light the fires of hell. The chemicals that I've tasted are flowing through my veins. I've even helped design some things. I want to know what kind of person I can be. I want to know where I can go. The sound of footsteps getting closer. Recall from within the facility. And the sound of something being lifted. Swinging. Bodies flying out of the darkness of the entrance. VA. I rolled across the grass in a rain of blood and organs. The latter is worse than the former. And among them are the faces that I recognize. The soldiers force me to die day after day. Who studied doctors of my former colleagues. Through the curtain of bamboo in search of the chalice. I can't see it, but I can hear it. I know that creature is standing in the rubble. The crumbling of the door. Painted in the darkness of the hallway. And I know that it's watching me. Waiting. The instinct in me begged. Please keep running, jump through the entrance. And disappear down the hallway and the mountain. It's all over if I run fast enough, but I know. The smoke in the sky is moving. And the moon has found the wreckage in the doorway. It's detecting shapes standing in the dark. A ghost with the footsteps of giants. And the voice of an abandoned scorer. But the giant is thinner than he can be. He crouched down the hallway with yellow eyes. Bright and bad cracked teeth. The questions are for me. The answer is never free. Now I see it, I saw it, and my stomach sank. Lips trembling, the mind starts racing for a way out. Memories rushing back from the dusty, thorny places in thought. I did everything I could to stifle them. But it's not enough. They are multiplying. Inside of me, tortured me by 10 years of regret and pain. I had no choice. Repeating those words over and over again. And every time they do, they become more and more meaningless. The truth is, the only thing I ever had was a choice. The choice to be a monster or still a human. And I chose to throw it all away. To take a step closer to become a god. One more step to see her again. Vanessa, you paid the price to do this. But now you know you don't know what to do. I tried to explain to the creature that the army approached me. That they know about my background in neuroscience and chemical research they know. I tried bridging the gap between life and death. I tried to tell him that I just want to find a chance at the end, to say goodbye to his wife. But the creature doesn't care. He laughed. He stood in the dark with his eyes open cold. And he laughed as he picked up a sack from the darkness. Where the threshold throw on the lawn. In the yard, the sackcloth writhing. It's as if there's something inside. It's struggling to get out. The excuses pouring out from my trembling lips. Before I could take a picture into a thought. More explanations. More reasons to try to justify what cannot be justified. I just want to save everybody. I stuttered. I really just want to save people. But the military wants to use the project as a weapon. They made me push the patient too far. They made me experiment on innocent people. But that was never my intention. The last words made me cry. Memories that burned from the bottom of my heart. Relics that have long been buried and crammed. Less than 16 years of hurt and suffering. I remember my own hand tying the patient to the chair. with the support of an assistant doctor. Light is younger and still alive. I remember putting wood in my mouth, so they don't bite their tongue. When we pin the diodes to the skin, and pump their pulse with my proprietary compound, we told them they were going to die. Yes, they said. We know. We told them they'd see a light. Something leads them to the other side of the world. This can take anywhere from a few minutes to a few hours, and then death will take them away completely. Now the question is always the same. What will happen after that light? And the answer never changes. Among hundreds of separate objects we observe, I saw them go inside a room somewhere familiar. It's usually their childhood bedroom, or a place of similar nostalgia and joy. There they will feel the infinite excitement. Patient description: it feels like an open mind. Oh, one. A deep peace that is close to nirvana. That feeling was strongest in the room, but will also radiate LA. The rest of the surrounding structure. The most common is a house. We call this place their holy place. Inside the Holy Land, dreams will come true. Dead pets will come back to life, wagging their tails with bright eyes. The subjects will be reunited with the lost relationships, visit our friends from afar, and even reuniting with loved ones who died long ago. And the Holy Land, that's all we're looking for. That's where I want to touch myself. At the time I considered the project a success. Quote that we've learned everything we needed. Death is nothing to be afraid of. And my final request before the end of the project: go through this process yourself. To see Vanessa one last time and say goodbye. But the military refused. They didn't let me stop the project. I will not allow myself to enter death, as I've always expected. But what's the reason? Because they are concerned that, without my expertise to guide the experiment, research group, they may not know how to get me back, that they might lose me, and I'll never come back from my Holy Land more. They told me that we still need to go a little deeper. And we need you for that. I asked how much deeper. What will happen if the subjects cross their bars? I don't know. It doesn't even have any ideas if that happens. But I'm not sure anyone will agree to go through it. Because they all describe, I feel great joy in my holy place. And I also want to try it. I want to see Vanessa, hold her in your arms again, and tell her that I miss you so much. Sorry for not having a chance to say goodbye. So I agreed. I agree because the process is too complicated. And it's not something that I can do alone, without the support of the group. I agree because it's the only way I can hope find the end in your life. Finally, I still have a lot of work to do before I leave forever. But at that point things started to get difficult. It's no surprise when subjects don't want to leave their holy sites. Even after many revivals and highly trained, I want to stay in the holy house. Still too strong to overcome. It seems there's some mysterious force in the world over there. It's affecting their will. He doesn't want them to leave. But the project needs to continue. I went back to the concept of coming up with solutions. But every solution is a dead end. Until Lace deciphered them. The theory is pretty simple. Just like them, I use chemical compounds to cause subjects to fall into a state of death, clinically in a therapeutic way. Then you'll inject another mixture into them. Pushing there will be beyond the pull of the Holy Land. It's going to transform the sanctuary from a sacred hall into a normal structure. There's nothing special. I can't afford to lock people up in its orbit. It's just a house, nothing more. The results otherwise to be temporary. It's like chemicals that we use to resuscitate and kill patients. They'll cycle out of their system over time. Harmless is the word he uses. And at least it's partly true. The removal of the Earth bar. It has proven successful in encouraging people to take risks into the space of the world. There's a place we know as, they describe Byung. It's a place that's not very different compared to our world. It has the same characteristics of modern life, like a house car, people and birds, but there's something obviously wrong about the whole experience. The subjects reported that they feel like being bothered at the Bayon, uncomfortable and insecure. An object that describes this experience as, the fear is spreading with every step. I feel the darkness falling on my soul. It's like it's swallowing. I consume all the light in my soul and leave only the ultimate suffering. But the exact cause of what caused it, it's impossible to identify the opposite. It seems like it's made up of a lot of the same stuff. One by one the buildings are full of broken windows, broken glass strewn on the ground below. But the people of this place don't seem to care. They are wandering around naked. A bright smile on my face. Feet unconsciously moving on the glass. And leave streaks of blood. But maybe the scariest thing is, these smiling people never said a word. There's no theme that we've observed. These ghosts seem to have the ability, or desire to participate in the conversation. Instead, they communicate completely through an action, with the only voice screaming. Bayonne seems to be filled with extreme terror. We're all scared to talk about death. That's enough. Let me give the military an ultimatum. End this madness or lose your project school. I'm ready to go. What started as a means help people find peace, has become a method against humanity. They told me to try another week. One more week of testing, then I can reach my own desire. For so long. Until then we'll get 10 of all the data we need, and can close the project forever. At that time I still believe that the subjects don't have to endure anything more. Except for a bad trip, of course. Their experience still leaves a psychological wound. But it's basically impossible to harm them. In a very short way I believe everything can be treated with appropriate therapy. That the consequences are not permanent. God forgive me. Lost in my memory. Oh. I wonder what you saw. The giant's voice brought me back to reality. Old fingers start working on the bag. Untie it, hum a melody for itself. I don't understand why. The song seems strangely familiar. Suddenly I realized it was a song by my own hand. Vanessa and I wrote it together. Tone that we played on our wedding day. It's also the song that I whispered crying at her grave. I know you, I told. The giant. Consciousness gradually manifests in the brain. I've seen you in the other side. A new memory spinning in my mind. Me again. In front of the director of the research facility. Just to explain that I couldn't finish. The last week at SAO the director asked. They are not coming back, I told him. I mean the objects. Half of them actually died after venturing into the Bayon. The chemical mixture part is designed to regenerate. The patients died, it's ours. It doesn't work anymore and weirder. Their brains also showed signs of significant damage. It's like a part of the brain has been burned. People who somehow come back, it's even worse. They describe these the horror. I still shiver every time I imagine it. The kind of nightmare that crawls into their memories and refuses to leave. Each of them will return in fading tears or cowardly breathing. They'll throw themselves out of their chairs and rush to the door. No. They beg me, please don't make me go in there. There's something out there. It's twisted and it wants me to suffer its pain. The description is haunting, but it also raises a question. What's out there and at SAO? It wants these subjects to bear its pain. Really, that's a question. I'm glad I didn't have to answer. We've lost 10 people, hurt the rest. So there's no need to chase this madness anymore. But the academic party, I keep thinking about what's hiding in Bayonne. And sadly so is the learning ability of the class. He was fascinated by the idea. Discover this creature, this demon. Seemed to live in the forbidden land of the world. Over there you're obsessed with it. I told the CEO's name. We need to finish the project before we release him. Lights out of the vase before we go too far. And find something that we can't solve. But he liked the idea of Brazil. He asked the army to capture this monster. For themselves, use the destruction of one's holy site as a means of psychological coercion. Because in the end, if you can convince your enemies that you didn't just take their lives, but also salvation, it's not that they will surrender immediately. That's right, this is a very attractive advantage. The military doesn't want to lose. At about that time we discovered another horrible truth. Method of light, it is supposed to be temporary. Remove the object's access to the holy site. It's not temporary at all. Every subject who has undergone his trick are permanently cut off from their paradise. What that means is we don't just hurt people. We didn't even just kill them. It's killing their souls. I put my hands down. Completely refused to continue this madness. I said to the director, he can do it whatever he wants with my papers. Because I won't go back for it. I'll never step foot in this horrible place any more time. Although I'm looking forward to seeing Vanessa again. But I'm definitely not going to do that. If the price is too many people. No, I'll find a way to close it in a healthier way. And then when I'm ready to go, I'll see her again in my sanctuary when life allows. I tried to leave but 2 soldiers stopped me. The director said he couldn't let me out. Because if you do that I'll just shout to the press. and spoil all the exciting discovery that we've done. I was going to blow the alarm. As soon as I walk out the door, our current audience has become difficult to collect. 10 data name directors explained. So I made a list. The drug addicts in the slums will jump up for the opportunity to get free medicine. And I'm in contact with them right now. Let's fill our stables again. I fucking told him don't drag any more lives into this. Or we can study by using children. Because their minds are much more malleable. Maybe it's a more unique method to deal with mental stress. When we put them in the biome, what do you think drive? I think I tried to punch him in the face. Right then in their vague memory. Because one of the 2 guards hit me in the head with a gun butt. But I remember begging him not to. I'll do whatever he wants me to say. Use me instead. I know exactly what we're looking for. I have enough bio information to navigate it. To tell you exactly what you want to know. No need for children. The director's name agrees. So as I'm officially the white rat of the army. Every morning I'm LED into a room. That's what I call the death chamber. And B driver will fill me with compound by my own hand. Developed before was laced with the substance that destroyed his holy sight. Every day I will die, wandering the caves and alleys of Biome, for a period that feels like weeks, only to be reborn a few hours later, panting and crying. Then I'll tell them what they want to hear. I've been doing that for 16 years. I was still a young man at the beginning, or at least younger now. My hair is gray and my body is getting weak. My memory has become a mess of different ideas and characters. A puzzle that the pieces don't seem to fit together. But this giant, this flesh and blood monster, somehow put the pieces together. That's the job. Let meaningless things make sense. You did exactly what I asked. Now I will give you back what you want. There's something wiggling in the sack. A hand sticking out of a pink hole. Followed by chestnut-colored messy hair. Then the shoulders are freckled. A woman fell on the grass in the yard. Among researchers and soldiers who died in battle. She's pale and shivering. That woman is my whole world. I ran across the field in disbelief into my eyes. As I held Vanessa in my arms, I squeezed her tight. Tears suddenly poured out my lips. Reached to her forehead and placed kisses. Whispered in the ear that how much she means to me. And life's hard without her by my side. The giant leaned in, and now that we're closer, I see a lot of features that I've missed in the dark. Scars on the cheeks, curled nose and thick hair on the head. It's like looking in a mirror in the game house. A mirror that's stretched and distorted. Thank you, I whispered. Ghosts pressed against Vanessa's face. Her flesh is cold enough, so I feel like I've got a needle on my skin. But somehow I've never felt warmer than that. Even now, sitting in a circle of corpses, I feel so peaceful. I did everything I could. After being imprisoned, the military ordered me to type the field reports. Every time I venture into Biome, these reports will be light-checked. Maybe he's known me for years. It will be easy to identify whether I lied to any claims, yours or not. If my information becomes unreliable, the military will carry out its contingency plan. Use children as objects. That's what I didn't want. And so I fully complied with their demands. That's what they really believe. That's what I believed, at least at first. But somewhere along the way, the situation has changed, and I realized that I can have cake and eat cake. I will end this project, kill everyone involved in it, and I can do it all while still being able to close. I soon knew that the previous subjects all told the truth, that they were right to be afraid of Biome. It's not just scary, it's maddening. There's nothing in Biome that makes sense in reality. Replaced by an equivalent of DY Life Zone, where birds don't fly, they crawl. They use their wings to crawl on the ground. Broken legs groping follow. Cars are everywhere. They are driving in random loops, against walls and street lights. Or, it's even going through screaming residents at Biome. But there's no AI behind the wheel. The cars are ghosts, move according to their own will. All of this is incredibly annoying. But they are nothing compared to the real nightmare of the world. Over there, a creature that I've come to know is darkness. It's a creature of suffering and despair. It seems to exist in a negative cloud. It's a poisonous gas that spread across the world. Over there, it's like an inevitable epidemic. I encountered darkness for the first time. It's recording all the information about the people. Here I wonder why they are all naked. Why do they move in the same way as planes? Without the driver, keep moving forward. never stop to eat or even rest. And why are they screaming like that? Why do they always smile? While pondering these questions, something strange has happened. The end starts to shake the buildings around me. The skyscrapers are breathtaking. There's no sign of life start to lean and moan, swaying on their foundations. Pieces of glass left in the shattered windows, and down like a torrential rain in a storm. Residents stop marching and start running, to escape from an invisible threat. Some of them crashed their heads into the wall, leaving traces of blood from the broken body in. When others try to climb through the window, jagged wearing for mutilated body. I didn't know what to do, so I just stood there waiting, and the darkness found me. A tall, thin, almost unmistakable giant. That's me, a peculiar analogy. But this creature is basically me. He holds me in his hand, make the four limbs cry out in pain. When it starts crushing my bones to ash. The pain, it's probably something that people rarely feel. In the world beyond, every aspect seems to be blurry. It's like distant memories. But the pain that this creature conveys is more realistic, and it's more painful than anything I've ever been through in life. After returning from that expedition, I begged the flock not to send me back, crying and screaming, but both he and the director, Archo, that my discovery was too extraordinary to give up. They can't wait to tie me up again, to fill me with a familiar chemical, and take me back to hell. I think they believe that darkness is the seed, AI of death. A god of death wrote down the rules of Bayan, and maybe even our holy place. But even then I knew. But they still want it for themselves. The idea of using such a powerful entity, manipulate it and using it against the enemy, may have proved a prospect too tempting to ignore. Before I can save myself from the shock, I went back to Bayonne, back to the wasteland where hope no longer exists. Over and over again for years, I spend most of that time to flee from the darkness, follow the screaming residents. Whenever the sound of footsteps, like it's thunder approaching, I hide under the table in the closet, or even run into cars that are still running. But it's never enough. Sooner or later the darkness will always find me. And when he does, he'll torture me. The torture will be unique in every encounter. Never allow. I anticipated the pain I would have to endure. Adapt to it. Once it broke every single one of my bones. Another time it filled my eyes with broken glass. Every time I face that kind of pain, I pray again for mercy. Pray not to have to endure the pleasures. It's distortion too, but he never cared about answering me. It's simply doing its job with a quiet determination. It's almost like a robot for a long time. I wondered whether it's capable of proper communication. Hey, it's just serving some predefined function. Until the day he answered. I asked him why he would spend his existence just to torture me without doing anything else. Because you've spent your whole life torturing me. He said that's when I knew it's not really the devil. It's the guardian of the valley. It exists to keep order, to act as shepherds of actors, role in the imagination that the Holy Land created. It was then that I discovered that every resident in Bayonne, he will be one of our memories. That they wandered aimlessly until they were called to. They will put on themselves the identity of any AI that we want. Maybe they'll become a great teacher from childhood. Maybe an old friend, even the lost lover. And that giant entity is a master choreographer. For plays it's doing that because it has no choice. Because when you suffer it will also suffer. It seeks to satisfy the whims of your holy land. Because if you don't, it's going to feel the pain in each of us. Darkness and sanctuaries are like batteries. Each side gets the energy. Throughout my life, friends with the Holy Land, be energized because of your positive experiences. Moments of hope, joy, and happiness. The darkness is filled with negativity. Moments of disgust and grief. That's why the sough of our emotions. Just like a passing wind, why once they appear, the feelings seem to disappear in a few minutes. Or a few hours by they've been loaded into each person's personal inventory. An archive. It exists in billions of dimensions individually. I don't know where these dimensions come from and how they appear, but I know one thing: they are real. I know this, it's because I help people travel there. Every time I inject drugs into their veins, let them die and come back to life, I've sent them to a whole new dimension. It's independent of our dimension. But I didn't stop there. I also helped with something. Traveling from a strange dimension to our reality. A creature born of negativity and hatred. Darkness, you held back your pain and now leave me. I looked up at the giant and said, my own name, that's right. And are you? The link must be broken, you have escaped my pain. As soon as those words left my mouth, I still don't know what the consequences will be. When I die, there is no sanctuary and no darkness. Where will I be in the wilderness of bioluminescence? Or even it's gone. There's no caregiver, I don't know. All I know is the horror. In my experiments that have been solved, the world of life and death, once again separate from each other as they are. I want to tell this story not to encourage others. Follow in my footsteps, continue my research. Not to save a warning. Some mysteries are better not to explore. Goodbye. I watched the giant rise to the top. In just a little pop, he jumped into the darkness of the forest, disappear into the silent night. I don't know what he's going to do in this world, but I hope that there will be no more negativity. I did it myself. He will find peace for himself. In the meantime, I looked down at the piece I had found Vanessa. She's still the same as the day she died. I glided a finger along my pale cheekbones, and her eyelids fluttered, hands and feet moving and body rolling after sleep. It takes me back to those lazy Sundays in bed. Reminded. I remember the mornings that we slept in together. Dry her eyes and hold her tight. Wonder how could my life be so perfect. Hello again, baby, I said. Vanessa looked up at me for the first time in 16 years. She smiles, smiling and screaming.